Matilda Sear, Chapter 35. The slate rat ran the entire length of the tunnel to the point where it ended at the town of Twisting Shades. From this point on, he would have to travel on the surface. The Black Mass tunnels were the only tunnels in Ravenshead, and no one was able to enter them, even if they were just a pesky rat. After much maneuvering, he managed to make it over the border into Ravenshead. Now came the hard part. Being a rat, even a fast order slate rat, people were naturally wary of you. But if he played his cards right, the rat knew things would work in his favor. Through some of the other rodents in the forest, he had heard that Lord Raff killed anyone who tried to talk to him without being summoned first, so he knew that wasn't an option. Instead, he headed to a boarded-up old manor house on the outskirts of town where Lord Raff's right-hand men were rumored to hang out. The sun was going down, and all was quiet. He didn't want to make any sudden noises and risk being plummeted by a drunk. He crept into the side window, making sure his paws didn't scratch against the tattered wood floors. A large spider greeted him, and then he scurried down off the kitchen drain. Even though the house looked abandoned, the slate rat was surprised to see it fully furnished. At first he heard nothing, then started to make out murmuring from the back of the house. Taking care the entire way, he followed the sound to the back room. He couldn't make out exactly what they were saying. There was only one word he heard clearly: Watcher. On hearing this, his confidence began to increase. That was until a bald man missing two of his front teeth picked him up by the tail. "Well, what do we have here?" he asked in a thick, wispy voice. "A dirty little rat. Are you a spy? Do you know what we do to spies like you? We feed them to the wolves for dinner." The man opened up the back room door and revealed 6 other men sitting around the big oval metal table. "Look, boys, we've got ourselves a spy." The slate rat began squirming for dear life, attempting to free itself. Unfortunately, the man's grip was far too strong. "Who wants to do the honors?" One of the men at the table stood up and reached for a big club hanging from a utility belt. "I believe it is my turn. Watch and learn, boys." Knowing that he only had seconds left to use, the slate rat finally found the courage to speak. "Wait! I've come to deliver a message to Master Raff." All murmurs stopped as every eye in the room grew serious. The man with the missing teeth addressed the rat. And what could a rat have to tell Lord Raff that he doesn't already know? "I'll tell you if you let me down and agree to let me run free throughout the town." The man with the club grew angry, his face turning red. "Do you think that we negotiate with sewer rats?" The rat looked offended. "I am first order slate rat, and I think we all know the implications of that. You must, by order of the Alliance, hear me out." Reluctantly, the man dropped his club. "You are a liar. All the slate rats are dead." The rat lifted his right paw, to show a black mark in the shape of a crescent. "Does this look dead to you? I have a message." The others looked down at the rat as though they had seen a ghost. "What's your message, then?" The rat went on to explain what he had seen the boy do to the soda can. He ended with, "Can someone take me to see Master Raff so I can deliver the message?" The others laughed at the absurdity. "Slate rat or not, Lord Raff can't be bothered by the likes of you," said the man with the toothless grin. "The message will get delivered all right, but not from your mouth. As you've requested, we won't kill you. Go ahead and roam freely, but make sure you stay hidden, or we can't guarantee your safety. Not everyone knows about the Alliance. It's old and, well, near forgotten. Back in the day, we were treated with more respect than this. There's a new lord, and this is a new day," slurred the man with the club. "You should be grateful you're even alive. Now scurry." He wished he could go back to the first attorney. They made a big mistake. He fumed within. One way or another, they'll pay for treating me this way. Chapter 36. The road through the region of Eden consisted of loose gravel. At no point did they see any cars driving along it. There was a strong breeze in the air, and they quickly found the dirt and wind didn't mix very well. "Can't you do something about the wind, Kari?" Kane said as he shielded his eyes. "Isn't that your thing?" Kari rolled her eyes underneath her sunglasses. "Yeah, I don't think so. My gift is to create wind. Besides, this is a harmless breeze. Stop being a wimp." Kane clenched his lips in anger. This was clearly more than a breeze. How do you even know what you can or can't do with your gift anyway? As a joke, Kari pursed her lips and blew out some air in Kane's direction. A forceful wind impacted Kane like a ton of bricks and sent him flying to the ground, landing with his face in the dirt. Kari gasped as she slapped her hands over her mouth. "Crap. Kane, are you okay? I didn't mean to do that." While Kari stood there mortified, Matilda gave Kane her hand and helped him up. "You need to be careful with that gift of yours. I know you were just messing around, but you could have really hurt him." Kane wiped the dirt off his face with his t-shirt. "I'm fine, but you owe me now. Figure out a way to stop the wind. I can't take it anymore. You need to at least try. Unlike you, I don't have any sunglasses. The last thing I feel like doing is squinting the whole afternoon." "How am I supposed to make the wind stop? Blowing air out of my lips is one thing, but you're asking me to take the wind away. What am I supposed to do, suck it up? It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but I can't do it." "Why won't you just try?" Kane said, fed up. Highly agitated, Kari raised her head and gestured her fist towards the sky while yelling out at it. Good Lord. Highly agitated, Kari raised her head and gestured her fist towards the sky while yelling out in anger. "Wind, stop it. Stop it right now. Do you hear me? Go blow somewhere else." Then turning back to Kane, she said, "Happy, now get off my butt." She was in such a state that she didn't notice that the wind slowly began to die down. Within 20 seconds, it had completely subsided. Matilda, Lainey, and Kane looked at each other amazed. Lainey cried out, "You did it! Oh my gosh, Kane was right. You can stop the wind. That's awesome." Kari looked around in disbelief. Before, when the wind was blowing dirt everywhere, visibility was as poor as foggy a day. But with the wind gone, she could see the landscape around her much more clearly. In front of them stood rows and rows of orchards filled with all kinds of vibrant colored fruit. "This is absolutely gorgeous," Lainey said. "Look at all this fruit. I've never seen so much of it in one place and in my whole life. I'm going to pick some." She went up to the nearest tree with the fruit that looked like a cross between a plum and an apple. She wiped it with her shirt and took a bite. Juice gushed out and down her chin. "This is incredible. You guys have to try it. It's like nothing I've ever tasted before. It's sweet, with a tangy bite at the end." She picked a few more and began throwing them to the others, who after taking one bite were all groaning in pleasure. Unfortunately, the pleasure was short-lived. Traveling through the still air came a loud whistling sound. A little ball quickly made its way down one of the orchard rows and onward to where they were standing. When it was far off, it looked like a dark brown ball of fuzz, but as it drew closer, they realized that the fuzz was actually a matted collection of hundreds of tiny spikes. The thing was the size of a soccer ball. They watched it roll towards them in wonder. Wonder quickly changed to concern as more of these little balls began to appear out from the other rows to join the first. Kane was standing back behind the girls. Guys, I think we missed the sign." Lainey spun towards Kane in less than a second and replied, "What sign?" Kane turned the wooden sign around to show them. It read, "Warning, Grimlets, private property. Don't touch the fruit or you'll face the penalty." Lainey dropped the fruit and quickly slapped it out of the hands of the others. "Crap. What's a grimlet?" "I think we're about to find out," Matilda replied. The others began to back away, but Matilda refused to move an inch, mainly out of a morbid curiosity. The first grimlet approached. Out of the ball of spikes emerged two beady eyes and a rather large mouth for its face. Its feet were hidden beneath its round body. There was no noise that she could see. To her amazement, "Can't you read the sign? Do you always go around stealing other people's things?" Matilda looked down at the tiny creature, mesmerized. "We didn't mean to steal your food. We'd be happy to pay for it. And no, we didn't see the sign until it was too late." The grimlet grunted several times before saying, "Liar. Liars must pay. We don't want your money. Instead, your penalty is to serve us for a time of our choosing." Matilda laughed out loud. The grimlet started screeching out different tones. At the sound, the rest of the grimlets began to advance towards her. Cain came and stood by her side protectively. Before their eyes, the grimlets began transforming. The four chosen shrieked in terror as the grimlets grew larger. In less than a minute, they stood taller than any of the teens. Their once round shape was now oval. "I think a month of slavery should do the trick," the leader snarled. This time with spit flying everywhere. "Seize them." "Stop," yelled Lainey, stepping forward. "You can't kidnap us over a piece of fruit." The head grimlet turned towards her with no empathy. "I can, by order of the High Council. This isn't just any fruit. These are numpty trees. It's the protected fruit of the ethereal city you stole. And they have entrusted us to look after it by any means necessary. Since every one of you took a bite, you're all subject to the consequences." "Is this some sick joke?" Lainey said. "Surely this is a joke. You act like we committed treason or something. We just didn't see the stupid sign. It was an accident." The leader ignored her and motioned to the others, who started advancing. "You'll be released after serving your month. We'll take you by force if necessary." Kari stood tall on the other side of Matilda. Just then, something came over Matilda. Every ounce of fear left her, and she felt a foreign strength wash over her. It was as though all of her senses suddenly became alert and active. One of the grimlets managed to grab hold of Lainey. Matilda decided first, reasoning with the head grimlet, and interjected, "We don't want to fight with you. Please just let us go." The grimlet began looking frantically around. "Who said that? How dare you try magic on me? I've been given authority to watch over these grounds, and the penalty is death to anyone who should try to come against me." Matilda couldn't believe her ears. Really? Death over a piece of fruit? The grimlet was done talking and reached out to grab her. Unconsciously, Matilda kicked out her legs and struck him with such force that he stumbled back, knocking down the grimlet behind him as well. She knew she couldn't punch them or she would lacerate her hands on the spikes that covered their skins. So as the grimlets began advancing, she used anything she could find to fight them off. At first, she used her backpack, swinging at them wildly. After ending up with the backpack sliced full of holes, she quickly moved on to breaking off a tree branch that found to be quick and effective. Cain began picking up some of the surrounding rocks and throwing them with great precision at the grimlet's eyes, causing them to double over with pain. Kari used her newfound wind powers to knock them over one by one. Even with all their efforts combined, they were vastly outnumbered. The grimlets continued to advance towards them, and they were quickly gaining ground. While Matilda, Cain, and Kari were preoccupied defending themselves, they heard Lainey scream, "Let go of me! Help! Matilda, help!" Matilda looked around but couldn't see her anywhere, as Lainey kept screaming out for dear life. Matilda finally saw where the sound was coming from. She looked down the main row of the orchard, where all the grimlets were gathering in defense, and saw Lainey being dragged along the ground by her shirt. A small army of grimlets stood between Matilda and Lainey. An even greater feeling of strength surged through Matilda, and without thinking it through, she grabbed the bottom of one of the smaller fruit trees and ripped it from the ground. She began swinging it at the grimlets, sending them flying through the sky in all directions. She was advancing towards Lainey as fast as she could, sweeping the path as she went. Matilda was halfway to Lainey when an explosion of light lit up the orchard, forcing Matilda to close her eyes. She heard Lainey's voice call out to her from behind. "Are you looking for me?" Matilda beamed at the sight of her friend's face. She dropped the tree and hugged her for the first time. She did a quick check all around to make sure the other Grimlets hadn't come back yet. "I was so scared I'd never see you again." "Boy, that's some arm you got. You sent them to Timbuktu," Lainey said. Kari and Kane ran up to them. "Guys, we gotta go," Kane said. "I doubt they'll stay down for long. We're gonna have to run fast. Here, let me help with that." "I'm getting better at this." Lainey quickly made a door and traveled them out of there. A few minutes later, they were standing in front of a sign that's read, Watson's George. Chapter 37. Lainey, Kane, and Kari turned towards Matilda with their jaws dropped and eyes wide. She had no clue why they were looking at her like that. "What? Is there something on my face?" she asked, suddenly self-conscious. Lainey reached out her hands and put them on her shoulders. "You were freaking unbelievable. Who knew you had that much strength in you?" Matilda opened her mouth to respond, then gasped. "Lainey, look at your arms." Lainey looked down and saw hundreds of small scratches littering her arms. "Ouch, I didn't notice. I was too afraid I was going to be some freak love slave to those gross creatures. But when I saw you coming towards me, holding that tree like a baseball bat, demolishing everything in sight, the fear left me, and I was able to escape. That was cool." "Lainey, I'm just as amazed as you are," Kari said. "But we really have to do something about those arms of yours. I put a first aid kit in here just in case." She began rummaging through her backpack. "There's got to be something we can put on your arm." Kari managed to find some antibacterial cream and rubbed it onto Lainey's arms. They didn't have enough bandages, but were able to rip up a shirt, wrap it around her arms, and then tape it together with some first aid tape. "I look like a mummy. I can't wear these," Lainey said while she started to undo all of Kari's hard work. "Anyway, the bleeding has stopped. I'll be fine. They're just small scratches." From a far-off distance, they heard the same familiar cry of the Grimlets. "Unbelievable," said Matilda. "We'd better go. I have a feeling they're never going to stop looking for us." They had been so preoccupied with Lainey that they hadn't noticed the enormous lake that sat only 20 feet in front of them. It was flanked on either side by two huge green mountains that reflected on the lake's surface. Currently, they were standing just outside of the last row of orchids. In between them and the lake was grass. "Sorry," Lainey said. "I tried to get us to Watson's George, only it took us here instead. Maybe I should have focused more." They quickly headed through the grass towards the lake, feeling relief as they left the orchards behind them. "Now what?" said Kane, as they stood at the edge of the lake. "We're kind of stuck." "Well," began Lainey, "we could try traveling on our own to the other side of the lake. That sounds like the only solution to me. Unless one of you has a boat in your pocket, it's not likely we can just walk there. If you look closer, those mountains look like islands." Everyone agreed that it was the most logical solution and grabbed hands. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," a voice said out of nowhere. They turned around but saw no one. "I'm really starting to get sick of this place," Kari said at her wit's end. "Touchy, aren't we?" the voice replied. Kane was the only one who finally spotted the creature behind the voice. It was a miniature man with wings sitting on a large nearby boulder. He looked a lot like the flower mite he had encountered in his motel room, only bigger. Kane nudged Matilda and pointed at him before announcing proudly, "Hey, you're a flower mite." The small winged man stood up, put his hands over his throat, and made gagging noises. Then he fell back on the rock and pretended to be dead. The others looked at each other, confused. He finally lifted his head. "A flower mite? Are you kidding me? I'm a gorge fairy. Just for that, I'm not so sure I'm going to help you cross the lake. That is, if you even proved worthy to cross." With a sassy tone, Lainey said, "Don't matter much. We can travel by light across the lake without your help." The fairy picked up some rocks and began skipping them against the glassy surface of the lake. "Oh, this should be fun to watch. Let's see how many tries it takes until you figure out that there is no travel in the gorge. Oh, by all means, though. Straying away, the fairy began happily humming. Matilda turned towards the other. What do you guys think? Should we try? At this, the fairy began laughing, surprisingly loud for a man no bigger than the size of her palm. Hey, Shorty, Kari said. We're trying to have a conversation. To her surprise, he listened and went quiet, but after a few moments resorted to whistling loudly, which was equally annoying. Kari whispered to the others, we need to think of a way to get across this lake, because otherwise I might just blow him to the outer realm. Matilda giggled. I thought fairies were supposed to be sweet little creatures. This one isn't, not even a little. I have an idea, though. I have no idea if it'll work, but after Kari managed to stop the wind earlier, I'm up for a challenge. She got up and walked over to the lake. As she did, the fairy began taunting her. What? You came here to beg me for help? Happens every time. Unfortunately for you, that was a wise crack your friend made back there and will cost you. On the flip side, I'm in the mood to negotiate. Instead of wringing his neck like she imagined doing, Matilda replied, No, we're good, and then bent down next to the water's edge. She closed her eyes, dipped both hands in the water, and waited. She could hear the gorge fairy laughing again and then mumbling something. But despite the distraction, she managed to concentrate to see if she can conjure up a vision. At first, nothing happened. Rather than give up and give in to the troublesome fairy, she decided to focus on the lake itself, hoping that would trigger something. Once she had a clear picture in her mind, she began to look around, expecting to see something she missed. Still nothing happened. She began to turn back towards the others when she was startled by a hand slowly rising out of the water. With surprising speed, it reached up and pulled her under. She started to panic, trying to pull away, but its grip on her was too strong. This was all the stranger, given that just minutes before she was able to pull a tree up from the roots out of the ground. A female voice under the water spoke out to her. It's okay. I'm here to show you the way. This is only a vision. That's why you're not finding it difficult to breathe. Matilda suddenly became aware she was indeed breathing freely. Peace washed over her at the realization that this person was a friend rather than foe. She tried to see the voice that was speaking to her, but all she saw was a bright light. Whoever was holding her hand pulled her to a white rock embedded with purple flecks. Not too far off the shore, it shone brightly underneath the water and was easy to spot. Once they got to the rock, she heard the voice again. You only need to touch the rock, and the bridge will come into view. The bridge is invisible. It constantly moves around and won't allow anyone to cross who hasn't been granted access. You, however, will be given access when you touch the rock. It must be you or it won't work. That didn't make any sense to her. Why me? Can't one of the other chosen do it? She looked around, desperate to see this person's face, but now even the hand was out of her view, obscured by the intensity of the light. You are the bearer of the mark, and therefore able to cross this bridge and see it. It must be you. The others will be allowed to travel with you. Even though she didn't understand it, she accepted it. Who are you? How come I can't see you? At first there was no response, but then the voice spoke again, ushering with a sense of calm. I am your seer guide. You are not meant to see me. I only come when it's necessary. It is time for you to return now. Matilda tried calling after her, but there was no response. When she opened her eyes, everyone was staring at her. I take it you had a vision, Lady asked. I wish you could see yourself. You were flailing your arms about everywhere, yelling out to someone. It was pretty comical. Matilda grew flushed. Instead of explaining to them what happened, she said, I'll be right back. Then she dove in the water, leaving everyone standing with their mouths open. It didn't take long for her to find and touch the rock before returning to the surface. She felt incredibly stupid, however she decided to trust her visions no matter how weird they seemed. She walked out of the lake to a skeptical Kari, who was standing there with her arms crossed, staring at her now drenched friend. What did that accomplish exactly? Or were you just wanting to go for a nice swim? The group became aware again of the sounds of the approaching gremlins. They seemed much closer now. Funny. We have to hurry. They could be here any moment. Just give me a second to look around and then I'll explain. Matilda turned around to face the water. I think you must have hit your head or something in that lake, Kari said. Stop messing around. We don't have time for this. They're getting closer and we have to leave now. At first, Matilda didn't see anything. Then something caught her eye. It was like she was looking at the magic eye picture. The lake's surface slowly morphed, and a bridge came into view, a really long one. She turned back to the others, beaming. I can't believe it. I found the bridge. At first, I wondered if I imagined the whole thing. Silently, she began to wonder if she would ever hear from the seer guide again. She thought it was interesting that she hadn't heard from her before. She decided not to tell the others about her, or that her mark had given her access. The Gorge Fairy suddenly stuttered out. There's no bridge. You must have swallowed some marsh slime down there. Matilda looked at the fairy. You're full of it. I don't think you want us crossing this lake. Then she turned to Kari and said, do you think you could blow some wind on me so I can dry off a little? Kari nodded. Yeah, by the way, I'm glad you're starting to get some of your attitude back. I was beginning to worry. Kari breathed slowly on Matilda, carefully not to send her back into the lake. After she was mostly dry, the four of them followed Matilda to the edge of the lake. Are you sure there's a bridge here? We don't see anything, Kane said. I know it sounds weird, but I'm telling you, I can see it. Let me feel it first, just to make sure that obnoxious fairy isn't right, and I send us all tumbling into the lake. As Matilda was feeling away, the fairy began ranting. This is impossible. Only a gorge fairy can see the bridge. We're the protectors and guides of this lake, and not some ridiculous know-it-all teenager. How do I know you're even worthy to cross that bridge? I'm going to have to do something about this. I'm telling the tree wizards. Then the fairy flew off, looking quite offended by the matter. Matilda was now standing firmly on the bridge. To the others, it looks as though she was floating on water. This is seriously cool, said Kari in amazement. I wonder how long it will take us to get to the other side. From here, all you can see is lake. I've got no clue. I'm more nervous about what's waiting for us on the other side. Kane was the first to follow her onto the bridge. She leaned towards him and gave him her hand for guidance. Yeah, after what we've seen, who knows, Kari said. Matilda Sear.